Olivia Harris had always considered her quiet neighborhood a simple place to live. It was a peaceful area, with calm streets and welcoming neighbors. Every morning she woke up at 6 a.m. to get ready for her shift at a local diner. Her life had always been straightforward, just her and her daughter Lucy, since her husband passed away several years ago. There was no room for anything too complicated, and Olivia never expected her routine to change. She had learned to adapt to life in the only way she knew. One Thursday morning, as Olivia was pulling out of her driveway, something unexpected happened. She noticed her neighbor, Mr. Green, standing beside his old car, the hood raised and a frown on his face. He seemed to be struggling to fix it. Olivia hesitated. She had never really spoken to him before. Mr. Green was a quiet man, always seen either walking his dog or picking up his mail. But as she drove by, something inside her urged her to stop. Without hesitation, Olivia said, "I can take a look if you don't mind. I've had to fix a few things myself." She walked over to him. She parked her car and called out to him, "Do you need some help?" Mr. Green looked up, surprised but grateful. "I wasn't expecting any help today. The car's been acting up, and I just can't figure it out," he replied, wiping his brow. To her surprise, Mr. Green handed her a wrench without saying much more. That was the beginning of something Olivia never could have anticipated. As they worked together on the car, Olivia realized that it wasn't just the car that needed fixing. There was something about the situation that connected them in an unexpected way. Later, as she wiped her hands on a rag, Mr. Green smiled, clearly relieved. "I owe you one, Olivia," he said. Olivia smiled back. "Don't worry about it. It was just the right thing to do." She wasn't expecting anything in return. It was just a small act of kindness. But as she got back in her car and drove away, Olivia felt a strange sense of satisfaction. Little did she know that this simple gesture would set in motion a series of events that would change her life. The next day, as Olivia was walking back from the mailbox, Mr. Green appeared at his doorstep, holding a small envelope. He looked hesitant but warm. "Olivia, could I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. Olivia stepped closer, confused. He handed her the envelope. "I wanted to thank you properly for yesterday. It's not much, but I hope you'll accept it." Olivia looked at the envelope, unsure of what to say. "You really didn't have to," she said softly. "I know, but I insist," Mr. Green replied with a kind smile. "Please, it's the least I can do." Olivia hesitated before opening the envelope. Inside was a small amount of cash. It wasn't much, but it was something. She looked up at Mr. Green, unsure of how to respond. Mr. Green was already turning back toward his door, a small smile on his face. "You didn't have to," Olivia called after him, but he was already inside. Olivia stood there for a moment, the cash in her hand. She hadn't expected this, and it made her feel a little uncomfortable. She didn't want charity, but at the same time she couldn't help but appreciate the gesture. Later that night, Olivia showed Maddie the envelope, unsure of what to do with it. Maddie, ever the curious one, raised an eyebrow. "Do you think he's just being nice, or does he want something in return?" she asked. Olivia wasn't sure. She didn't know Mr. Green well enough to understand his motives, but something about the situation felt different, something she couldn't quite explain. The next few days went by quickly, and life returned to its usual pace. Olivia continued working at the diner, picking up extra shifts whenever she could. She didn't think much about the envelope or Mr. Green, but just as she was starting to feel settled again, something happened that would shake her world to its core. It was late one evening when Olivia received an unexpected knock on her door. She wasn't expecting anyone. Her first instinct was to ignore it, but then she remembered the envelope from Mr. Green. Could he need something else? She opened the door to find Mr. Green standing there. But this time, he wasn't alone. He was holding a small box, and beside him stood a young woman. The woman appeared to be in her mid-20s, with blonde hair and wide, worried eyes. "Olivia," Mr. Green said, his voice shaking slightly. "This is my daughter, Ella. She needs help." Olivia blinked, confused. "What kind of help?" she asked. Mr. Green looked down at the ground, then back at Olivia. "Ella's sick, really sick. We've tried everything, but we don't have the money for the treatment she needs." Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. She hadn't expected anything like this. "I'm so sorry to hear that," she said, her voice soft. Ella stepped forward, her face pale and tired. I don't know what else to do, she whispered. We can't afford the hospital bills. Please, is there any way you could help? Olivia's heart ached as she saw the desperation in Ella's eyes, but what could she do? She had always struggled to make ends meet herself, just barely getting by to take care of Maddie. The idea of helping in any meaningful way seemed impossible, but something inside her told her that she couldn't walk away. After a long pause, Olivia took a deep breath. Let me see what I can do, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Over the next few days, Olivia found herself becoming more and more involved with Mr. Green and Ella. She visited the local clinic, speaking with doctors, trying to figure out a way to help. The situation was dire, and the medical bills kept piling up. Olivia knew she couldn't fix everything, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there had to be something she could do. As the days passed, she grew closer to Ella, learning about her life, her dreams, and the sacrifices she had made. It broke Olivia's heart to see such a young woman, so full of life, yet trapped by circumstances beyond her control. The more Olivia learned, the more determined she became to help. One evening, as she sat in her living room, Maddie came up with an idea. Mom, what if we had a fundraiser, like a bake sale or something? Maybe we could raise some money to help Ella, Maddie suggested. Olivia hadn't thought of it, but the idea sparked something inside her. It wasn't much, but it was something. The next day, she and Maddie got to work. They baked, they called their neighbors, and they spread the word. It wasn't easy, and there were plenty of setbacks along the way. But soon enough, the community rallied together. It was incredible to see how people came together for something so simple, yet so meaningful. By the time the fundraiser day arrived, Olivia couldn't believe how much they had raised. It wasn't enough to cover everything, but it was a start. When she handed the money to Mr. Green and Ella, their gratitude was overwhelming. Mr. Green couldn't stop thanking her, but Olivia just smiled. You don't need to thank me, she said warmly. We're all in this together. The weeks that followed were filled with small victories and setbacks. Ella's health slowly improved, but the road ahead was still uncertain. Olivia found herself more involved with the Green family than she ever expected. She helped with doctor appointments, kept up with the fundraiser, and even spent weekends at their house, helping however she could. But one afternoon, as Olivia was leaving the clinic after a checkup for Ella, she overheard something that stopped her in her tracks. I don't know how much longer we can keep this up. Mr. Green's voice was strained. I've been hiding it from Olivia, but I'm afraid I'm running out of time. Olivia's heart stopped. She turned, trying not to be seen, but the words had already struck her like a blow. What was he talking about? Why was he hiding something from her? The thought haunted her for days. Later that week, Olivia confronted Mr. Green. What are you hiding from me? I need to know, she said, her voice sharp. Mr. Green looked at her, his face weary. I didn't want to burden you, Olivia, but I've been sick too. My heart, it's failing. I don't have much time left. Olivia's world tilted on its axis. She had been so focused on helping them that she hadn't even realized the truth about Mr. Green's health. The man who had seemed so strong, so self-reliant, was fighting a battle of his own. The revelation hit her harder than she could have imagined. She hadn't just helped a neighbor. She had unknowingly become part of a family in crisis. And now more than ever, she knew she had to do whatever it took to help them. The days turned into weeks, and Olivia's relationship with the Green family deepened. She became a constant presence in their lives, not just as a neighbor, but as a friend, a confidant, and a lifeline. Mr. Green's condition worsened, but he remained as determined as ever. Ella, on the other hand, was still fighting for her life, doing everything she could to stay positive despite the odds. One evening, as Olivia sat beside Mr. Green, she made a silent promise to herself. She would do everything in her power to help him and Ella, no matter the cost. She had already seen how powerful a single act of kindness could be, and now she understood that sometimes the smallest gestures had the power to change everything. Just as Olivia thought things couldn't get more complicated, an unexpected phone call changed everything. It was from a hospital in a neighboring city, and the news they had was both a shock and a blessing. Ella had been accepted for a groundbreaking treatment that could save her life, but it came with a hefty price tag. The cost was higher than anything Olivia could afford, but when she told the Green family the news, they looked at her with a mix of hope and fear. Olivia's heart was heavy. She knew this treatment was their last chance, but the price was beyond anything they could afford. They couldn't afford it, but Olivia couldn't let them give up. The fight was far from over, and so Olivia made another promise. This time it wasn't just to herself, it was to the Green family. No matter what it took, she would help them reach that hospital. Because the truth was, sometimes the most important thing you can give someone isn't money or a cure, but the belief that they're not alone. As Olivia set out to find ways to help the Green family with their medical bills, she was met with surprising support from her community. Neighbors she had barely spoken to came forward, offering help in various ways. It was as if the simple act of fixing Mr. Green's car had sparked a chain reaction, bringing everyone together in unexpected ways. Olivia began organizing another fundraiser, this time on a larger scale. The whole town came together, contributing time, money, and resources. The sense of unity was overwhelming. For the first time in years, Olivia felt a glimmer of hope. She had never imagined that her small act of kindness would have such a far-reaching impact. By the time the fundraiser was over, Olivia had raised enough to cover the treatment costs for Ella's hospital bills. It wasn't just the money that mattered, though. It was the way the whole town had come together to support one family in need. It was a reminder that kindness had the power to change lives. With the funds in place, the next challenge was getting Ella to the hospital. There was no time to waste. Olivia drove Ella and Mr. Green to the facility, her heart heavy with hope and fear. It was a long journey, but they made it. And when Ella was finally admitted to the hospital, Olivia felt a wave of relief wash over her. Ella had a long road ahead of her, but for the first time in months, she had a real chance at recovery. Olivia stayed by her side, offering comfort and support. It wasn't easy, and there were many more struggles to come, but Olivia knew they had taken a huge step forward. Months later, Ella was out of the hospital, and her health had improved significantly. Mr. Green, though still battling his own health issues, was doing better. Olivia's relationship with them had blossomed into something far deeper than a simple act of kindness. They were family now, and Olivia realized that in helping them, she had found something she hadn't known she was missing, a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. In the end, Olivia knew that she hadn't just helped a neighbor, she had become part of something far bigger. She had given them hope, and in return, they had given her a new way of seeing the world. It was a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could lead to life-changing outcomes. And as Olivia stood at the Green family's door one final time, she knew that the bond they shared would last forever. The journey had been difficult, but it had been worth it. In a world full of uncertainty, Olivia had learned the greatest lesson of all, the power of human connection. What do you think of the unexpected reward in this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched you, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more. Until next time, keep the kindness flowing and stay inspired.